Hello everyone, I am Neetika Shridhar, Assistant Vice President at ICRA Limited, and through this podcast I'll be sharing the key highlights of the recently released auction calendar of state government securities. Now on 29 December 2023, the Reserve Bank of India released the auction calendar of market borrowings by 27 state governments and 2 union territories for Q4 FY24. It has placed the total market borrowing at an all-time high rupees 4.1 trillion, indicating a YOY growth of 37% on the back of already large issuance of rupees 3 trillion in Q4 of FY23. Now, it's interesting to note that the incremental borrowing of rupees 1.1 trillion in Q4 FY24 relative to the actual issuance in Q4 FY23 is mainly led by two states, namely Karnataka and West Bengal. Now, these two states have indicated combined incremental borrowing of rupees 880 billion in Q4 FY24. This is 78% of the total increase of rupees 1.1 trillion. Also notice that the planned issuance of 600 billion by West Bengal in Q4 of FY24 rivals the size of the actual borrowing by the state across the entire FY23. If we look at the borrowing pattern of West Bengal relative to the indicated amount, it has been quite mixed in recent years. In case of Karnataka, it typically borrows entirely in H2 of a fiscal. However, we have noticed a trend of downward deviation in its actual borrowing in the last quarter relative to the indicated amount. Now, based on the borrowing pattern of West Bengal and Karnataka in recent fiscal, the sharp jump in borrowings indicated by these two states in Q4 of FY24 appears to be on the higher side. So, therefore, we expect the actual issuance of these two states to trail the planned issuance in the last quarter of FY24. We also think that a few states may have arrived at their Q4 FY24 borrowing number by subtracting their actual issuances in 9 months of FY24 from the total borrowing that is permitted to them for FY24 by the Government of India. States that have followed this approach in finalizing their state government issuance for Q4 of FY24 could have indicated a higher borrowing amount for the last quarter of the fiscal than their realistic requirement. Now, another factor that could trim the actual borrowing requirement of the states relative to the indicated level is the release of the funds by the Government of India under the CAPEX loan scheme and higher than budgeted tax devolution. Now, till mid-December 2023, there was a sizable gap of rupees 371 billion between the approved and the released CAPEX loan. If the states had not received these funds till the time of finalization of their Q4 FY24 planned issuance, then such releases in the coming weeks could compress their market borrowings. We also expect the tax devolution by the Government of India to the states to exceed the budgeted level by rupees 200 to 300 billion. However, it is unclear that what is the tax devolution amount that the states have factored in while assessing their borrowing requirement for Q4 of FY24. So we continue to expect the gross SGS issuance in Q4 FY24 to be around 3.5 trillion and net issuance at 2.5 trillion for Q4 FY24. Based on the actual SGS issuance during April to December FY24 and ICRA's expectations of borrowing in the last quarter, we expect the full year estimate of gross issuance for FY24 at 9.5 trillion. This is 26% higher than rupees 7.6 trillion that was raised in FY23. With the increase in the redemptions to rupees 2.9 trillion in FY24 from 2.4 trillion in FY23, we expect the net state government securities issuance to rise by 28% to 6.6 trillion from 5.2 trillion last year. Thank you for listening and stay tuned for our upcoming podcast.